Call to order the City of Oconomowoc Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, October 18th, 2022. Has appropriate meeting notification been made?
Yes, Your Honor, it has.
Would you call roll, please?
Alderman Shellpepper.
Here.
Alderman Kavieski.
Here.
Alderman Douglas.
Here.
Alderman Rozak.
Here.
Alderman Altman-Cloth.
Here.
Alderman Ellis.
Yep.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Here.
Alderman Mulder.
Here.
Welcome, everybody. This evening, we have two orders of business. One will be an open discussion update on the Olympia Hills project and TIF. And then the council will go into closed session, and we'll announce that just after that. So if we want to go ahead and get started, Mr. Fry, are we good to go?
Yes, we are, sir.
All right. So I'd like to have the folks from Newman Company, if you'd come up and share with us an update from what you'd presented about 2 weeks ago. Thank you very much, Steve.
I'm Steve DeClean. Everybody else went elk hunting, so that's kind of fun. Thanks a lot for your time. We were here 2 weeks ago, kind of made a first, really just needed to have an early conversation about what I think is a really important project for us and for the city, obviously. You know, after that meeting, we had a little of some feedback, which was really good feedback for us and the kind of thing we were looking for. And we kind of heard two pretty loud messages. Number one, the general feeling was that was a lot of rental product in the southeast corner. And then number two, the size of the TID ask was more than what the city was thinking about at the time. So we kind of took that feedback and really made some revisions, and then there's also some clarifications on this updated plan that we got today. So really just the major changes. We took the density, so the idea is that the southeast parcel here, that 28.54 acres, parcel 2, is meant to be a multifamily project. We're working with Mandel on that project right now. And it seemed like a good opportunity to really sort of look at this as two different pieces, even if it all is in a rental community. And that is, as we transition this piece, you know, from east to west, I think it's a natural feeling to go more dense to less dense. And that piece really laid out nicely to just take the kind of higher density zoning category to the east of, I'm gonna call it the river, but the waterway. And then to the west of the waterway, we go with the lower density. So I think the vision there is, and while the products, they're working on the product with Rinka, the idea is you're gonna have more of a townhome, so more private entry, larger units on the west side of that river. Then, you know, we expect to lose some unit count in total in that project. So the idea there is, and I thought this really worked out pretty well. We still do really think this site can support and has been set up to support 640 units. So it really gave a nice opportunity for us to do more what we do, Newman Developments, and that is take that multifamily density and condo projects and kind of put it around the north, south, and the west side of that hill. So our vision here is that parcel 5 would be, these would all be duplex condominiums. Parcel 5 would be townhomes, that's for sale townhomes. Two in each building, that's 58 units. As you kind of come along the curve, sort of on the inner part of that curve, you're seeing in parcel 7 on the southern part, really a ranch style duplex, tends to kind of gear toward an empty nester. There's a lot of demand for that product in Oconomowoc, and I think that product's got a lot of legs in it because, you know, you're seeing a lot of aging demographics and people want to stay in the community they raise their kids in. So there's room there for a 58-unit ranch-style duplex project, again, condominiums. As you continue up the road, you're seeing a very large, and this is a really big piece of land, so there's a pretty large, it's a clubhouse, it's got a pool, there's a really big park area. Now this is all now gonna be private for all these residents to share, but we really like the positioning of that, it's kind of in the shadow of the hill. And then as you continue up north and on the way out of the parcel 9 is another townhome project that kind of mirrors 5. And the timing of this, we've sort of changed directions on this. This parcel now really does develop from phases from south to north. So as we're kind of exiting parcel 5 and wrapping up that townhome, We hope to be up to 9 starting the next townhome project. So it kind of goes nicely from one to the other. As you can see, everything west of that, what I'm going to kind of call the main road that kind of divides the condos from the single family, there's 202 single family home sites that look a little more traditional. They're going to live, fee simple interest. Um, so you can see what we did is we kind of took some of that density, we moved it out of the multifamily, and then we kind of surrounded the hill with it. I thought it laid out really nicely. As far as the TID goes, the ask 2 weeks ago was really it was a $10 million ask, and the idea behind that was to finish the road around the hill and really create commercial and create recreational corridors. What we were hearing was, and what occurred to us is that really what we should do is maybe focus on the southern piece of this, create the connectivity to the Olympia shop along 67, sort of promote direct access corridors into finishing what was started there. So we've got kind of just the road extending from Oconomowoc Parkway into Pabst Road, and then you're seeing that the public road A going south. That's the subject of the current TID request.
Can you move that up a little bit so they can see that?
Yeah.
Or reduce the scale? There you go. Thank you.
So you're seeing it here and then here.
So what's outlined in black, basically?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So that we've removed any notion of this being in the TID from the request. If you remember, this road really kind of stretched out this way from the hill before. The thought was that we could create an opportunity for some kind of a commercial, a mixed use. We weren't quite sure, but we would create an opportunity here for some commercial use. And we're hearing that that's not something the city wanted to pay for, and that makes sense to us, and that works for us. It really becomes a residential piece. We were talking to brokers. We were in conversations about the viability of commercial development on the west side of the hill. They weren't super enthusiastic about it anyway, and
It's
that
hidden.
does.
It's hidden, right?
It appealed, yeah, it is. There's a lot of commercial out here, and I think the best thing we could do to promote this commercial out here is build homes in here rather than put it on the other side of that hill. I don't think it was visible enough anyway. So I'm super comfortable with this sort of pattern in this division of uses.
Steve, what is you've got these other yellow kind of, that look like single family in this middle 7 parcel. Are those single family?
These yellows here, those are
Not those middle ones, the ones along the road.
yeah, no, those are single family.
Those
Yep.
are
Those are single
single-family
family lots, yep, on all sides of this out. So the idea is you're gonna kind of drive past some single family lots to get into these little enclaves.
Just can you give me the hard numbers on what's all proposed for each kind of,
Yeah,
so I think you said you had 202 single family. Oh, there it
yeah,
is.
Matt,
I didn't
yeah,
see
it's
it. I'm
over
sorry.
here too, but it's really
Legend.
small. Let's
That's
see
really
if I can.
small, yeah.
I'm
And
really
we'll-
bad
we'll
at,
pop this
I'm
on
bad at IT in
council.
the first place. I'm really bad under the
Yeah, that's
gun.
okay.
So it's,
All of this will be popped up for you in closed session as well.
Okay.
Different drawing with it.
Both the bridges are included in the correct, yes.
correct, and that's also a change from the prior request. We had envisioned bridges with sort of some fancy end walls, like we had really a bridge-like presence. I'm talking to the DNR, we don't need to do that. A simple culvert's fine, so we reduced the budget for those from 500,000 apiece down to 200,000 apiece. So you'd see that as a change.
Alderman Kavieski?
So I appreciate what you brought back. I think it addressed some of the concerns associated with the density, and I appreciate that. We've had some conversations over a period of time. I think what you did represents what's in that comprehensive 2050 plan. We talked about that as well, which is the housing life cycle. And that is, when that was put together, this area was really thought about in regards to how that could be implemented. I have concerns still, and I think this is one of the things that the council needs to identify and how we work together. That hill, some people would say, is a pimple. Some people would say that is an asset to the community and an opportunity to create that regional destination that Oconomowoc really has become, even without it, right? But it allows for that to be fully realized as a regional destination if the hill is embraced. And I don't see how that can happen with the way the infrastructure is right now around that. So I'm gonna struggle with that.
Well, let's be clear though, I mean, we don't mean to be placing all infrastructure that is gonna go on this site on this drawing. The idea is to keep with the area that's green is what I consider to be what needs to be turned into something great, and it will be turned into something great. But I think the infrastructure's gotta follow when those uses present themselves.
So,
Alderman Ellis?
You please finish.
I guess I'm gonna struggle with that, and I'm gonna use the bridges as the example. You went from like a higher end look and feel for that to a lower end culvert, right? So the more we go down a road or a bridge that
Yeah.
doesn't represent what we would like to see as a community, the harder it is gonna be to veer back onto a course.
I respect that, I do, and I hear you. I do think that's something, you know, to be sorted out. I mean, we're responding to a request for less funding, right? And I did have a lot of money in that budget. I mean, it wasn't just a number thrown on paper. We call engineers and we call contractors, and for $500,000, you can get a really handsome bridge with a really beautiful end wall and a really nice presence. For $200,000, it's more than just a culvert. It's still something to be dressed up, and we're trying to find a happy medium for what the council can support. So I hear you. It's something, I guess, to be sorted out what that might look like.
I just look, I think a few of us left the Sendex grand opening. It's one of the,
I saw the pictures. It looked
Right,
great. Yeah.
it's better than average. And the community, I think, especially in this area, is looking for better than average if it's gonna be a regional draw.
Alderman Ellis?
I'll wait until we go into closed session. I'll ask my question then.
That sounds good. And just to remind council, you're welcome to ask any questions you'd like. What we want to do is pull out any facts or get clarification. This is not a negotiation here at this stage. Mr. Administrator.
Steve, can you walk through some of the things you discussed with us earlier today as how you would access that higher density
So,
on
yeah.
on the backside of the
Yeah,
Sendex area? If
yeah,
you can
we
slide
think-
it up so that people,
Yeah, we think that this, you know, the way this is already set up, and then with this road getting extended, we think this creates a really good opportunity to make sure this kind of higher density area of the multifamily project, you know, goes right to Commerce Street. Really, it's a perfectly logical traffic pattern to really just pull this all east, create a healthy, vibrant retail community, but also, frankly, keep the traffic out of the areas where it's not necessarily wanted, which is over here. So, I mean, we're seeing direct access to Commerce Street and direct access this way. We're envisioning a footbridge that's gonna carry these residents over in this higher density side over to an amenity area right here. And again, I shouldn't say us because I'm not involved with the multifamily, but in talking to Mandel, that's sort of how they're envisioning the site at this point.
Alderman Mulder?
Is that walking trail, is that paved? Is that just mowed grass, or is that?
Yeah, so we would propose a paved walking path, and you see it, and I mapped out about a 4.5 mile run around this parcel when all is said is done through this. So as a lifelong runner who's hated every step, it's a runner's dream.
if you want to see what they do the paths like, go to Lake Country Village behind me. They've got a lot of paths through there, and that's pretty cool.
And I'm happy to say I'm rarely out there when there isn't someone on those
Yeah,
paths.
and they're awesome, and they're wide. You know, you can bike and kids can, you know, skateboard and stuff. I mean,
Yeah, so it's a great way to carry people, and thanks for pointing it out. I did try to highlight the kind of the green checkered path around here. I'll just see if I can figure out how to blow this up.
Be a cool place to.
Other comments or questions from council, or other comments, Steve, that you'd like to share with the group? Alderman Mulder?
So on parcel 8, family-friendly active users with mixed use, you do not see any residential in there at this point?
Correct, correct. I think it's really important to reserve a lot of space. You know, it's really important to understand that between this very large hill and the uses, there's gonna be a need for parking. And I would hate to underpark this site for when the right thing comes along. So we've been talking with Rinka, who's gonna be the master architect on this entire project. And everybody's really issuing caution to make sure we keep our options open and we keep that land open. So I'm not seeing residential uses there.
Alderman Kavieski?
To that point, some of the regional type event centers or complexes that could be there could require up to 500 parking spots. To think that would all be surface lot, I think is probably not best utilization of the property, so maybe some parking structure in that area to support that. To your point, this is the area of flat land that could be utilized to complement what happens on the hill, because whatever happens on the hill isn't gonna be the sole regional attraction.
Right. I totally agree.
You're gonna need to really have a multi-season type attraction to really energize that area and benefit the community and the area as a whole.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Well, you know, Lou, that, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe, right? I mean, the hill's been there for a long time and has not been reutilized since the ski hill closed down.
You know why?
Well, I mean, you had people that owned it and you had weird stuff going on, but
Well, you had it stuck in an, you had it with an owner that didn't look to do anything with it, and then you had it, the owner that passed away that had the property in an area that was just a one through the purchase. So there's been some challenges, not with the site necessarily, but with the ownership and the vision. If you go back further, you have a resort, you have an active ski hill, you have polo fields, so it depends on when you want to look in time to when that area was the most vibrant and what it can be again with the right vision.
So I have an idea. Steve, would your team and your designers of that Section 8 be willing to have kind of an open brainstorming session? We can call it Committee of the Whole or something, with all of us to go through that area and try to get a little more definition and share ideas. All the council members, you can reach out to your constituents, talk about different ideas for that area. Would you guys be willing to do that?
We would love to do that.
Okay.
We'd love to do that. We'd love to bring the architect. I would probably even want to pull Mandel in to get some thoughts from them too.
Okay.
And just have a brainstorming session. I really, really want to get this project kicked off the ground. We really want to do it from the south, and we think it's a mistake to rush any kind of decisions on this opportunity right here. And I'd love the opportunity to sit down and hear what everyone's got to say.
Just, again, this is just a committee of the whole. Is there anyone that is not in favor of doing something like that? Because I think we could talk for hours about different ideas, but I also think we've got to surface that so everybody's aware of different things that could or may not happen in that area. Anybody against that concept? Which means another special meeting, probably an hour and a half, maybe? 2 hours? So, I mean, I want to have it be functional, but, you know, if this potentially moves forward, it needs to happen probably sooner rather than later. So, Saturday? At your house, yep.
Packer games now, so we
Yeah.
can. bring in one of those.
The way the Packers are playing and the Badgers are playing, right?
Be more productive being here on Sunday.
Well, thank you very much. What I'll do is, I haven't heard any negative feedback. If anything changes after closed session, I'll let you know. Our city administrator will get in touch with you, and we'll try to find a time that seems to work.
Great, thanks
But
for
it
your
seems like that area is really important. Any other questions or comments on what we see here before we go into closed session, council? I want to make sure if you have any questions directly for the Newman Company, we do that.
Great, thanks a lot.
Are we good? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
At this time, we'll be going into closed session. The council will go into the room behind us per Wisconsin State Statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specific public businesses wherever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The topics will be the Oconomowoc Parkway project, the public-private partnership with Olympia Hills redevelopment project, and the Lac La Belle boat launch project summary. So at this time, we'll be going next door into closed session. And for those in the audience, we will hope to start at 7:30 sharp for the council meeting. We'll come back in here. If we're a little bit late, we'll do our best to be efficient as possible. Thank you.
I need a motion. I need somebody making the motion.
So moved.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we're going into closed session. The committee of the whole meeting?
Motion to close committee of the whole.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll switch the computer software and then we'll get into the council meeting. I'm sorry, Jason. This was the one for public hearing? Yes, sir. Yeah, that's public hearing. Gotcha. Okay.
I'm ready, Mayor.
Okay, I am not, so just one
Okay.
second. Council's all here. I don't see Mark.
He went home.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Does anybody see Mr. Fry? We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the City of Oconomowoc Common Council meeting for Tuesday, October 18th, 2022. Has appropriate meeting notification been made?
Yes, Your Honor, it has.
Would you all please rise and turn around for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. Would you call roll, please?
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Here.
Alderman Kavieski.
Here.
Alderman Douglas.
Here.
Alderman Rozak.
Here.
Alderman Altman-Cloth.
Here.
Alderman Ellis.
Here.
Alderman Spiegelberg. Here. Alderman Mulder.
Here.
Great, thank you. I'd like to open the public hearing regarding the Den Spa conditional use permit. The purpose of to hear public comment on the conditional use permit to operate a paintless dent repair business at 500 Chafee Road. Per the table of allowable uses listed in section 17.106 of the City of Oconomowoc zoning code, a vehicle service and repair business requires a conditional use permit in the industrial zoning district. If approved, the applicant will be allowed to operate the dent spa business to repair dents in automobiles from hail damage, door dings, creases, bicycle tanks, which is classified as vehicle repair within the zoning ordinance. Mr. Gallo.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll give a very brief presentation on the conditional use permit request that we've had for Dent Spa to locate at 500 Chafee Road. Also here this evening is Nick Stark, the applicant, and he'll say a few words as well. So the property is, this is Chafee Road. This is the end of the road. It's a cul-de-sac, and that's the property there. You can see the property's circled with the red circle around it. Dent Spa is at the end of Chafee Road. It's a cul-de-sac here, and the current property is zoned industrial. It's in an industrial area, If you know the area, it's Capitol Drive. They're building some condominiums right here that aren't up. And it is a conditional use in the industrial zoning district for vehicle service and repair. The site plan is pretty straightforward. There's no changes to the exterior of the building, no new landscaping, no new lighting. They're just utilizing it. They will be a tenant. It is owned by a separate party. So the request is for conditional use for vehicle service and repair. We heard earlier, mostly the main business is hail damage. This is not a person that's going to come in and just stay here temporarily and leave. This is a permanent business coming from a different location that was out of town, and he's coming here to operate. It's consistent with the land use plan, which identifies the site as industrial, and the zoning code does identify this as a use that's allowed in the industrial district. We have standards for conditional use. There's 6 standards, and the applicant will have to respond to these, that all repairs shall be conducted inside the building, no outside storage unless in a screened designated area. All vehicles must be parked on a paved surface. Security cameras must be approved by the city police. The hours of operation can only be between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m., and then they must comply with all other city ordinances. Plan Commission did recommend approval, and it is staff's recommendation to approve the conditional use permit for Dense Spot 500 Chafee Road. Of course, it's for vehicle service. That's my presentation. I'll leave this slide up for the applicant.
Thank you. This public hearing is open. Nick Starch. Nick, come on up, yes. For all those in the audience, I only have one card for with regard to this public hearing. If you want to make a comment regarding this topic, please fill a blue card quickly and give it to Mr. Gallo. Mr. Starch.
Hello all. I've met some of you before at different meetings, but my name is Nick Stark. I am the owner of Dense Spot LLC located at 500 Chafee Road. My current address is 1611 Mammerell Lane West in Hickorywood Farm subdivision. I've been a paintless dent repair technician for about 26 years now, and have owned my own paintless dent repair business, which means paint-free, no fumes, no chemicals, nothing. It's just straight metal manipulation. For the past 15 years, where I have or past 15 of those years, I have been in the Lake Country area now for 15 plus years, where I have raised my son. My son is now 15. He attends Oconomowoc High School. I am already well established in the community prior to the hail damage. Hail damage is not my main source of income. It's normally door dings, motorcycle tanks, just normal door dings, creases, things of that nature. But obviously with the hailstorm, it changed it a little. As a matter of fact, I am the only local hail removal business that was in town prior to the storm. As you could tell, there was a lot of other companies that came through. I was hoping everybody would use me, but it didn't work out that way. As far as the city standards go for automotive repair, I have and will comply with all the following. All repairs to the vehicles have and will be done inside the building. I do not have nor plan to have any outside storage. All vehicles will continue to be parked on all paved surfaces. Security cameras have already been installed by the owner, John Pesic, who owns the building. They've already been installed. And I'd like to set up a time with the city police if they can come out and check it out and make sure everything's good. My service hours will only take place between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m., but obviously my normal operating hours are going to be between 8 and 5. During the winter, it's even going to be less than that. And I do intend to comply with all other city ordinances in the future. And I do thank you for your time. And that's all I got.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other comments for this public hearing? I have not received an additional blue card with regard to this item. Public hearing is now closed on Dense Spot conditional use permit. We'll move on to our next item. I'd like to entertain a motion for approval of the October 4th, 2022 council minutes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, I'd like to bring forth item 12A, the mayoral appointment. Next onto the agenda, really appreciate those people that are giving their time, talents, and skills to serve the community. Is there any objection from council? Okay, we'll be moving forward to the mayoral appointment, confirmation to city council of a new fire board person. And so I'd like to have our applicant please come up to the podium. At this time, council, you're welcome to ask our applicant his thoughts or comments to serve on the fire board at Western Lakes Fire Department for the city of Oconomowoc. If you'd please introduce yourself, that would be great.
Sure. I'm Scott Carter. I live on Southwood Drive, 3711 North Southwood Drive. And I've been in the area for about 40 years and in Oconomowoc a couple of different times, 10 and 2. We live on Southwood, and when we moved there, Southwood is part of the village of Summit, or the town of Summit at the time, and then we became part of Oconomowoc again.
So for council, this position became open as Mr. Charlie Shaw had to resign. We wish him the best, and thank you, Mr. Carter, for coming to council. I do also want to inform council that I've gone through this potential appointment for your consideration with Chief Bowen, who I believe is here somewhere. I saw him earlier. Oh, there he is. And I also discussed this with our current board member, Jeff Romer. So all the information is there. I actually reached out to Scott because of his background and his passion to really dig in to the details to help us work on the financial aspects and the operational aspects at Western Lakes. He himself personally requested the intermunicipal agreement and then also requested all of the documents of the contracts that we have with all the other municipalities. So he's really dug in deep. Scott, thank you, and I'll open this up for discussion. Alderman Rozak.
Scott, we've talked before. You're currently on the CDA. Our fire board meets once a month, right?
That's the way it looks to me. I think it's the last Monday of the month.
And then during budget cycle, sometimes maybe a few additional times beyond that. Are you capable of making all those meetings and being there for those?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we already approved him for the CDA, so.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Mr. Carter, thanks for volunteering to serve in this position. I just want to clarify with you, whose interests do you ultimately believe you are looking out for as a member of that board?
I report to the city.
Okay, sounds good to me. Thank you.
That was really cool. Jennifer.
I don't know if I can go after that. I just want to thank you for volunteering. I actually met you at the last joint municipality meeting,
Yes.
so you're already getting engaged. You recently volunteered for an event in Oconomowoc, so we appreciate that too.
Alderman Ellis.
I just want to thank you for volunteering.
Thank you.
Alderman Kavieski.
I think with your background and your dedication to the city, you've run for office, you put your time in on committees, and you're looking for ways to serve genuinely. And I think that says a lot about you. You stick around and you're following through, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And he was there for our budget discussion. For those that you didn't notice, he was in the background. We wanted to make sure this was the right fit. So compliments, Scott, thank you very much. I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll, please.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman-Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Thank you very much, and look forward to your engagement with the city. Thank you. Great. Next up is the comments and suggestions from citizens. What we're going to start with first is a presentation of a National Weather Service Award, Kevin Linnott and Ben Miller. Mr. Freeber, do you want to get us started?
The gentlemen here are from the National Weather Service presenting the City of Oconomowoc's wastewater treatment plant has done weather recording for them for over 50 years, and that's what they requested time for.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ben. This is Kevin. We're from the Weather Service. And the reason we're here is to present, I've got a couple of awards. One personally for Kevin for being part of our program for so long, and the other is for the actual operations that the treatment plant does for us. And I know you guys have a lot going on, so we're not going to take up a whole lot of your time, but just a little bit of background in case you don't know what they do.
Can you speak up in the microphone,
sure,
please?
sorry.
Thank you.
Just so everybody's kind of on the same page as to what they do for us. Every day, they take temperature and precipitation readings for us, which most of the time isn't a huge deal, but when you get to this time of year and we start getting snow, they do snowfall and snow depth, and that immensely complicates the procedure, and it's a little bit more time involved in doing the readings for us. But every day, 365, they do it for us, and we couldn't do what we do, the way we do it, without their information. We make maps, text products. We do it to verify our forecasts, to gauge model bias, and they're the official climate record for the city. If there's any legal action, they're the source of the data. Not directly from them, but through us, that the data gets certified, and it can be used for legal purposes, and then obviously climate research and the official climate record and whatnot. But without further ado, obviously not all 35 years that Kevin has been here, but he was obviously at Watertown before he came here and was involved in our program there. So we're not gonna slide him and just give him 4 or 5 years here. We're gonna acknowledge the whole time. So Kevin, thank you. I realize you're not part of the day-to-day activities of collecting the data, but you make it a priority for the gentleman here, so we appreciate that. It's truly a noteworthy accomplishment, because most of the time you get 20, 25 years, and whether you're an individual, you've lost interest, you've moved, you're retired. So to get to 35 years, that's a pretty noteworthy accomplishment. And so the second part of this is for the treatment plant itself. Last year, they crossed the 50-year threshold of taking observations. The city itself has had records since 1944, but the treatment plant started taking them in October of 1971. So, yeah, we're 51 years now, but due to COVID, we couldn't get the signatures we needed to pass these out. So we're a little delayed, but yeah, so 50 years. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Appreciate it. I don't know who wants to take this one. I had some other stuff, but you guys got a lot more going on, so we're going to cut it short.
No, if you have something, I'm sure the council would like to hear.
Well, no, it was just some records, kind of the warmest and coldest, that kind of stuff. So this won't take very long. I'll just do the daily stuff. The hottest temperature they recorded at the treatment plant, not for the whole period of record, but right there at the treatment plant, was 103 degrees on July 6, 2012. The top 3 hottest temperatures were the 5th, 6th, and 7th of 2012. So if anybody remembers that, it was nasty. The coldest was minus 30 just a couple years ago on January 31st, 2019. I'm sure we all remember that as well. Most precipitation, 5.38 inches. Now these are 24-hour totals. 5.38 inches on August 10th, 1995. Number 2 was just a month ago, 4.98 back on that day in September. Most snowfall in a 24-hour period, 11.5 inches on December 8th, 1977, and the greatest snow depth was 25 inches on January 24th and 25th of 1979, and we all remember the late 70s.
Yeah.
Ugly. So we'll leave it at that. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Congratulations to these guys. We have an important mission at the National Weather Service, not only to work with these folks, but to make a quick plug, weather.gov/Milwaukee. I mean, because it's important for Oconomowoc and all of southern Wisconsin, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So on to public comment. I think it's 18 or 19 cards. I tried to count them, but I lost count after a little while. We're going to start off just randomly. And again, it's 3 minutes, everybody. And if I ask you, I'm going to ask you, can you wrap it up? I'm going to try to be kind, but if not, we'll try to shut things down fairly quick. We want to get everybody's opinion out there who wants to make a comment. And if there's duplication, please identify the duplication. That will help so that we don't spend a lot of time and are here until midnight. So again, I will call your name, ask you to come to the podium. When you come to the podium, what I'd like you to do is restate your name, tell us where you live, not only your address, but also for the record, City of Oconomowoc, Town of Oconomowoc, Village of Lac La Belle, wherever you come from. And then I have a little clock up here, and so I'm going to keep it myself. If this gets out of hand, because we have a lot of people, then we're going to put it on the big screen right there. We do have it all set up to do that, but I think it's kind of rude. So let's get going. So I'm going to start off first with Helen Forrester.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm here to make some comments on the budget for the library. My name is Helen Forrester. For 50 years this year, I have lived at N7308 Ski Slide Road, the last property in the southeast corner of the town of Ixonia. I have never contacted you because I do not live in the city of Oconomowoc and you do not represent me except in this instance. I am a strong supporter of the Oconomowoc Public Library. My husband and I raised 4 children in this school system, and for all those years, I and my family have been frequent users of the public library. Although my children are gone and have established lives outside this area, I continue to be at the library weekly. For 15 years, while I lived during this period that I have lived here, I worked at the Wisconsin State Senate. At that time, I clerked the largest committee in the state Senate: Agriculture, Health, Human Services, and Corrections. Those areas covered an extremely large number of legislative proposals, rules, compromises between legislators, state agencies, lobbyists, nonprofit organizations, professionals, and citizen interest groups. I know how government works, or doesn't work, or should work. The proposal to cut the library budget is not how government should work. Of course, the council should examine the city's budget closely and has every right and the obligation to make changes. However, logic demands that changes be proposed for specific reasons. The original budget, as presented, was balanced, and any proposed cut in the library budget should have been made for a reason. Any change in programming for the library should have had backup documentation supporting such a change. And any proposed transfer of money from the library budget to another department should have been accompanied by the reason the money was needed more in a different place. None of this documentation was presented with the motion to reduce the library budget. And last week, the adjustment to the amount of money to be cut was reduced, but again, without any logical reasoning, much less just a reduction.
I'm going to have you wrap up, please.
I will wrap up. For a balanced budget, to cuts made without any supporting reasoning is not the way a government works. I urge you to reinstate the library budget as originally proposed without any cuts. That is the responsible action to take, and that is how good government works. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Bob Perkins. If you can kind of refrain your comments or clapping, I think we'll get through this, and I think that would be the right way to do it. But Mr. Perkins, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Bob Perkins. I live at 618 East Wilson Street in the city of Oconomowoc. I also am speaking to library funding because I think that a really good library improves my property values because it speaks to the way that a city should provide services to its people. I think that this means that a library should have enough money in the budget to have sufficient staffing to keep it open evenings and weekends so that folks who work 9 to 5 can have time to come in the evening, so that students can use the library when their school libraries are not available to them. I have noticed that in the proposal that you folks talked about last week, you've got $11,000 in the budget to mow the grass on the median on Summit Avenue. And I would suggest that most of the drivers on Summit Avenue don't notice how long the grass is because they're all driving at least 10 miles an hour over the limit. I suspect that you could take that $11,000 and put it in the library budget, and that would be a great help to maintaining the standards that I and many of my friends here think the Oconomowoc Public Library should be able to keep. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Al Haskell.
Good evening, Al Haskell, 128 East, now called regular Greenland Avenue, City of Oconomowoc. I've lived in this city since 1994. We've raised 2 children, my neighbors' children, all learned to swim at City Beach. All went to the city beaches because they were safe places. I'm here to talk about a couple of issues, but the main issue is my concern of the overall, I don't know if it's morals or tenure or focus of the direction I'm seeing coming from this council. The idea that you want to cut funding for Parks and Rec, the idea that you want to cut funding for the library. You're looking at cutting funding for things that are important to people, very important to people, especially those that don't have the wealth to pay privately for such things. And it seems to me wrong-headed. I don't understand the minimal dollars that you're talking about in the $16 million budget being that much of a concern. Whether you steal from the grass to pay for it, or you look at it from the standpoint of, I don't know, a penny per 1,000, what's 35, 50,000? It's gonna cost me 50 cents? A buck? Hell, I'll just take and return my library books on time, and that'll cover your deficit. So please, take some time to think about the regular people of this world and what makes Oconomowoc special. And it appears to me that many of the things that you're chipping at, for whatever rationale you have, are wrong-headed. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra Perkins.
My name is Sandra Perkins. I live at 618 East Wilson.
Can you pull the microphone down a little bit for you? There you go. Thank you.
Public libraries are traditionally community meeting places, a place to get information, a place to enjoy a free exchange of ideas. They are a valuable resource for students in all our local schools and for those who are homeschooled. An active, vibrant library is a valuable public asset. Just like a police department, just like a fire department, just like a sewage plant. If you are concerned about Oconomowoc's image, our library is more important than the grass median on Highway 67. Let the county mow it and give the $11,000 to the library. Let's get our priorities straight. The library provides wonderful programs for families. This is especially important for families that struggle financially. Kids who spend their time in the local library programs are less likely to get into trouble. I understand that we don't get quite enough money from Sullivan and 2 other communities who are part of our system but don't have their own libraries. Those who come to the Oconomowoc library will probably have a burger and shop before they go home. This is a benefit for our local businesses. I assume that all you folks are collecting fees from all the developers who are making a ton of money in our town. Our Oconomowoc Library has really improved over the past few years. Let's support it, not starve it to death. Dictatorships don't have strong public libraries. Free democracies do. Thank you.
Thank you. Pippa Lindwright. I'm not sure if I pronounced your last name right. Pippa?
Mom and Dad made up my last name, so yes. Pippa Lindwright at 342 West 3rd Street in the city of Oconomowoc. I, too, am here to speak about for the library. Last week, Alderman Mulder was asked to speak as an expert on what the library needs to stay open, to stay staffed. And the thing is, you already had an expert in front of you telling you that she could keep her library open and fully staffed with a $25,000 cut, but not with more than that. And I think it is short-sighted to reduce the funding of our library, given that we receive nearly $500,000 in revenue from other towns for circulating materials to people who live in communities without libraries and other revenue. If we have fewer hours to be open, they are less likely to come here, and we will continue to lose that money as well. There were comments made about the number of employees. The library has 7 full-time employees and 20 part-time employees. Part-time employees are not paid health insurance. They are cheaper employees. This is a good stewardship that the library is requesting. Their increase is mostly due to cost of living adjustments. I understand that as a council, you are all dealing with cost of living adjustments. Every single thing is more expensive, and I appreciate the time and care that you put in to trying to figure out how to continue offering services for this whole community with what you have. I believe that the library is worth funding. They have met you halfway in saying we will find $25,000 to take out of our budget, even though that was only to keep us at the level we were last year. And we're asking you, please give them an additional 10 so that they can continue to offer the services which so transform and change our community. Our librarians do an amazing job to nurture this community. So far this year, the library has offered 332 events and programs for all ages that have been attended by over 15,000 people. By the end of the year, that number shall be closer to 500 programs attended by 23,000 people. That is an amazing gift, and I hope that you will find the money to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Floss Whalen?
I live at 1205 East Lisbon Road, and I have an old lady voice, so bear with me. I submitted 16 annual budgets to 16 city councils. Never once did I fear that the library budget would be at risk, and with good reason. The alderman knew that. For the better part of a century, Oconomowoc has considered its public library to be a community treasure. Many believe it is as essential a service as fire and police protection. It serves all ages, from toddlers excited about their story hours to us old folks, almost just as excited about the library's outreach visits to our senior housing. Today's modern libraries do so much more than provide books. They give needed access to computers, especially needed for job applicants who cannot afford their own computers. They educate the public in new technologies. Libraries help in so many ways that they are truly community learning centers. In this time of inflation, our library needs more funds, not less. Plus, there are new apartments and condos popping up all over the city. The new residents are not illiterate and childless. They add to the demand on the library services. Promoting residential growth on the one hand and cutting public services on the other is simply not logical. Nor is it logical to put $30,000 into the 2023 capital budget for a library needs study at this time. I guarantee no study is going to tell you that the library needs less space. The study will tell you what many users already know. It needs more space, more equipment, more staff. With the inflationary rates and the supply chain shortages, that's not in the picture for the near future. By the time a future council is ready to take the responsibility for additional improvements, the needs study will be outdated. The $30,000 would be better spent on the current operating budget to make up for much of the $35,000 cut. And I quite frankly do not buy a $25,000 cut either. The budget should at least remain the same. But even if you choose not to transfer the funds, the $35,000 amounts to about a penny a thousand. That's about $3 on a $300,000 home. I speak from experience. When I promise, taxpayers aren't going to sweat that. If this is really about finances, then you have no legitimate reason to cut the library budget. What some of you think
I'm going to have
of-
you wrap up, please.
I am. One more sentence. What some of you think of as budget expenses are actually investments in the community. The library, which serves the present and the future, is one of the best investments we make. Thank you.
Thank you. Jill Belargian.
Hello, my name is Jill Belargin, and I live at 675 South Worthington Street here in Oconomowoc. And I'm here to discuss, once again, these proprietary chemical formulas of drinking water treatment products being injected directly into our drinking water systems, and why we don't have a right to know exactly what all chemicals are contained in these chemical formulas. And I was particularly looking at these phosphate blends, and I was asking, and I've been asking this council to open up a discussion into these proprietary chemical formulas of phosphate blends in particular, because they can cause so many health effects, horrible health effects, chronic kidney disease, diabetes, multiple different kinds of cancers, blood clotting issues. I'm a plumber, as you all know, and I did not know that this product was being injected into our drinking water, and nor did I know until I had some very serious problems with my drinking water here in Oconomowoc that our own DNR, AWWA, nobody in this water industry has any idea what are in these chemical formulas, because this Karis Chemical Company has been allowed to keep their ingredients a secret for almost 75 years now. All I've been asking this council to do is to get these treatment products into the hands of our trusted scientific community who can test these treatment products and tell us exactly what the heck is in these chemical formulas. Because when the Department of Health, when I was running my water back in February of 2019, I was running my water and they found 31 gases in my house. Chloroform was one of them. I didn't bring chloroform into my home. Whatever is in these treatment products, I cannot say that where these gases came from, but I know for a fact that my health issues and these gases found in my house, the gases, the toxins that were on that list are found in the water test that I had done. Because I needed to know if it did come from my water. I want this community to know that they are being exposed to chemicals that we have no idea what they are.
I'm going to
And
have you wrap up, please.
yes, I would, again, I'm begging you to please open up a committee for me to speak to and start weighing the pros and cons to adding these. I cannot find a study that proves that these phosphate blends kept the copper and lead from
If you
leaching
could
into our drinking
wrap
water
up,
like this
please.
company said.
Could wrap up, please.
Yes, I wanna seriously take a very hard look at all these chemicals being added to our drinking water.
Thank you.
Thank
Next
you.
up, Trevor Stiles.
Hi, good evening. Trevor Stiles. I'm at 870 St. Andrews Drive. That's in the city of Oconomowoc. So I appreciate your taking the time tonight. I'm here to talk about the Newman development. I think that's agenda item 10A. I don't have any issue with development in general, don't have any issue with this development in particular, but I think there are some opportunities to pursue a development that works for the city, but also minimizes some of the impact on existing residents. And in particular, I live along Mackenzie Lane in the Briarwood neighborhood. I have a wife and 3 young children. If you're familiar with that neighborhood, it's essentially a horseshoe off of Oconomowoc Parkway. So it has an entrance on the east side and on the west side, but there's essentially no through traffic. So my concern, when you have a neighborhood that has no through traffic, you have a disproportionate number of young families who move to the area. If you open up Mackenzie Lane, you're going to dramatically increase the amount of traffic that is running through that neighborhood. It's a neighborhood that doesn't have sidewalks. So you'll routinely see families walking along in the streets. There's no other place to walk. And that combination of a lot of young families, no sidewalk, and then dramatically increasing the traffic, I think that materially increases some of the risk that would come from opening up Mackenzie Lane. The second just brief item I wanted to mention, my understanding is the proposal is to have tree cover for about 75% of the homes along the back of St. Andrews Drive. I think that's a great idea. I think to the extent that can be pushed as close to 100% as possible, that's one way to minimize some of the construction impacts of putting about 600 units back there. And then also just the ongoing aesthetic impacts of that development as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Jordan Pagel. Jordan Pagel? Oh, okay, here we come. Well, welcome, young man.
I am Jordan James Pagel, and I am 9 years old. I live at W309 and 1721 Graywood Lane in the town of Delafield. My mom works at the place known as Oconomowoc Public Library, and I would like to say a few words. I am not happy about someone's decisions to reduce the library budget, and I don't think it makes sense. And I don't know why he would do this just because of like a book that's about LGBTQ people and stuff, and why he thinks he can take away my mom's money for it, and I want to do everything I can to stop him from taking my money. I went to help out the library because my mother works here, and it is a very good source of information. It is a very good way to learn. I would be very disappointed if the library went out of business. That is all. Thank you for letting me speak.
Hey, Jordan, nice job. Mike Berry.
Gee, how do I follow that young man?
Well, you have 3 minutes. And
Mike Berry, 519 LaBelle Avenue, City of Oconomowoc. Good evening. Public confidence in the city budget and this council itself depends on your willingness to conduct a disciplined budget process. Recently, the council took up a late request to add a police officer to the budget. It was late in that it was not included or recommended in the staff budget nor in the mayor's review budget. I'd like to offer a couple of observations about this based on having directed now several $1 billion of public budgets, including many years here at the school district. First, any late budget request, police or otherwise, that didn't go through the usual rigor of staff budget review requires extra caution and even a dose of healthy skepticism by the council members. Was the ad requested during the normal budget process? If not, why not? If not, why now? What's changed? I think the council has some work to do here in convincing us, about the public case for this ad. And I say that with no malice towards the police department or the chief. Second, if upon review, the council wishes to add a police officer, then bear in mind that the offsetting budget cuts should occur in the same orderly fashion and with the same level of care that the original budget proposal was built with. Don't do what you just did last meeting, a seat-of-the-pants budget cutting exercise. Let's cut $50,000 from the library. Let's cut $75,000 from the library proposal. Let's cut this department. Let's cut that department without evidence, without forethought. Right? It looks flippant. It looks arbitrary or worse. And you end up with this, a lot of upset citizens who would probably rather be home reading presumably their library books. So please, pause. Send the budget back to the staff. You have a month. Get a full justification for the police request. Direct your staff to carefully work the problem of rebalancing the budget if necessary. Ask them to bring to the council 2 or 3 recommendations for your thoughtful consideration. That's how a transparent and deliberate council works. That's what our taxpayers and our tax dollars deserve. Thank you.
thank you. Rhonda McKenna.
Good evening. I'm Rhonda McKenna. I live at N549 Main Street in Ashapen. I came across a poster when I was teaching that said, how a school thinks about education is evidenced in how it cares for its library. I think the same thing can be said of a city or community. If it places high priority on education, and what community doesn't want that reputation, it will place high priority on its library. I also believe that everyone should be encouraged to learn whatever they can about their own identities and histories, and what better place to get resources for that than the library with its reading materials and its programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Bedoin.
I'm Lisa Bedoin. I live at 320 West 3rd Street in Oconomowoc. I also have served on the library board for 10 years. I own a business, Books and Company, which will be celebrating its 40th anniversary next year. I moved here in 2007. I live about 2 blocks from the library. And it was a treat for us to be able to find a place to live where my kids could walk to the library, where they could walk downtown, where they could walk and be safe. So we felt like we had a really safe community. And I have had all of my points addressed already, so I'm kind of wing it a little bit here. But I really want to sort of, after listening to the meeting, going through the budget process as a library board member, as a trustee, I want to just bring back to the aldermen to please reconsider and to show the citizens, to show us how you justify the switches. If you went back to the police department, to the administration, and had them go through their entire budget for efficiencies, for ways that they could save money in the same way that you've asked the library to. Because you've asked us, you've suggested that we reach out to the I will read my notes, actually. I will do that. I shouldn't get so nervous. I do this all the time. So I think that with the library asking, or with the aldermen suggesting that we go to, say, Shorehaven and ask them to help cover the services that are provided by the library, I ask the aldermen to maybe reconsider how they do the fees for the, oh, I'll catch my breath here, I promise. They reconsider how the payment and for the in lieu of taxes is structured. Because if you're asking the library to go ask them for money that you yourself should be asking them for the services that the city is providing, it seems very inefficient to have the library staff do that, especially if we've been asked to be more efficient. So I would have you reconsider what you're asking of the library, what you ask of yourselves, and how you have deeply read your budget and deeply read your requests. And with that, I sort of leave it because everyone else has said how wonderful the library is. And being in a bookstore, I can tell you how much this sound appreciates the library and a reading community and a place to gather. So, and democracies are made stronger by libraries. So thank you.
Thank you. Ray McKenna?
My name is Ray McKenna. I live at N549 Main Street in the town of Ashburn. As most of you know, or some of you maybe know, I was the library director here in Oconomowoc for 34 3/4 years, retired in October of 2014. And just have a couple points that I wanted to discuss with you or point out to you. The first point is, it seems to me that the Oconomowoc way is dead. It's also known as good public policy. It was used in all 33 budgets I was a part of. This process involved all the city departments sharing in bounty or pain of tax increases or decreases. This process led to the wonderful community we have today. When you pit departments against each other, as the proposed budget discussed last week does, it alarms the constituents and breaks down the cohesiveness of city government. I ask you to reconsider your misguided decisions of last week. My second point is tied to the first. Many of us suspect that the reason that some of the council members voted to slash the OPL budget request is because they are unhappy they cannot control the library collection. Instead of having inclusive, multicultural collection that we currently have, these individuals want the library collection and programs to meet their narrow ideas of what is appropriate. This is not what public libraries are all about. This tactic of using the budget to control the collection is another example of bad public policy. This is not how to maintain the high quality of services that people move to Oconomowoc for. Again, please reconsider your decision and respect the library director's willingness to meet you halfway. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. The next card I have just has a first name, Terry, Terrie. If you'd like to speak, please come up, but we'll also have, you do need to state your last name as well for the public record.
Hi, my name's Terry Silverman. I live at 524 East Jefferson Street. I've lived there for 25 years. In the travel industry, there's frequent flyers, and I'm a frequent library user. When I walk in, I don't even have to show my card. They go right to the things that are on hold. They know who I am because I use the library so much. I use the library to borrow books, audio books, music CDs, DVDs. I use the interlibrary loan system, and I use Libby, which is a way to listen to books without having a CD or anything. I think that it's so important for our community to have a library that's available to everyone and to have times that the library is open for people who work and can't get there during the day. I think it's really, really important for the weekends to have hours because many people in this community do work full-time. They come home to their families, and the only time that they can go to the library is on the weekend. I'm really concerned about the library not being available to people who aren't as fortunate as many of us, who don't have computers in their homes, who don't have Wi-Fi in their homes. There are people of that in that situation in our community, and they need to be able to go to the library to do research, to look for an apartment or a house, to apply for a job. There are so many things now that you have to do online. I also think that the library is a safe place for children to go after school, children of all ages. When I was raising my children, we called them latchkey kids. I don't know what they're called now, but many children have to go home to an empty home with no one there. And for them to have the option of going to a safe place like the library is very important. Students can do their homework in the library. It's quiet. They can use the computers there. Some of them have tutoring in the private rooms. They can do research, and it's a quiet environment for them. I'll also mention that I belong to a book group that's been going for about 20 years, and we use the library extensively. The library has book group kits that we've used, and I do think that the library is worth fully funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Casper.
That was my wife who just spoke, and she'd covered it all pretty much. So I'm Tony Casper, I live at 524 East Jefferson Street in Oconomowoc, right near the old middle school, which turned into apartments. I'm just going to say ditto so others can, what I was going to say has been covered.
Thank you. Heidi Hallett.
Hi, I'm Heidi Hallett. I live at 638 East Wilson Street
Can you speak into the microphone, please, a little?
in Oconomowoc,
Great.
and been there close to 30 years, and I'm a friend of the library. I was at last week's meeting on the city budget, and in some areas, I feel you're not honoring the spirit of the recent referendum. I know those particular funds are earmarked for fire and rescue only, but the majority of people in the city of Oconomowoc and the village of Lac La Belle, as indicated by the referendum, want to adequately fund community services and the personnel who provide them. In the referendum, the majority in the city voted not to make drastic cuts across the board to channel support to fire and rescue, but instead to obtain the necessary funding through a tax increase. Adding another police officer is a big step that would likely need some portion of it covered by a tax increase as well. The business strategy of providing services on a shoestring budget until staff and facilities are run ragged is short-sighted. Yes, there's a balance that has to be reached, but now you're shoring up the crises within fire, rescue, and police by pushing another area of community well-being, the library, closer to its own crisis situation. The library director came in good faith with proposed cuts, including deferred maintenance, and the council voted without all members present to slash their budget even further. I think the majority of citizens understand the importance of the work that all of these public servants are doing, and I wish that could have been better communicated to the library. Please reconsider some of your strategy before you pass the final budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Metzer? Not sure if I pronounced your last name correct. It's a little hard to read.
It doesn't have a G. Everyone puts a G in it. From the old Metzgerei, probably German, but my maiden name is Deutscher, which is even more German.
Okay, thank you.
So my name is Jennifer Metzer. I live at 773 Royal Troon Court. My neighborhood is here. Sorry I have to fight for the library instead of the neighborhood tonight, but maybe I'll be back for my neighborhood. Live in the city of Oconomowoc, and I think my biggest concern, there's been a few echoes of it, but as a council, you've approved all of these wonderful new developments in our community. And I'd love to be able to ask a question, but I can't, and I didn't have time to do all my homework because I'm a teacher and I work every night on homework of my own to be ready. But we have the Hackney House, we have the Lachlan, we have all the new high-rises everywhere around downtown. Tonight I learned about some other condos that are being built by the Dent place that this guy talked about, and I don't know exactly how many brand-new residents you've approved to come to the city of Oconomowoc, but I feel like as a council, it's really in your good favor to be thinking ahead to how to budget wisely when you're inviting all of these residents to come. I've heard a lot of numbers thrown around about the library, and I'm gonna take a $37,000 number I was provided by from a friend who got a return email from my alderman. So this is $1,000 worth of books right here in this crate. That is $1,000 worth of books. It's about 66 books if you think about how the library chooses to buy high-quality hardcover books. If you take that $1,000, right, divide it by about $15 a book, I'm a reading specialist, not a math specialist, you have 66 books in my crate. If you fund the library at around $35,000 to $37,000 or whatever they're talking about, that's 2,400 books. And I'm sure you've approved almost 2,400 new residents to enter our community. So if we're advertising Oconomowoc as this growing, beautiful place to live, oh, but sorry, we only buy one book per year per resident, I think that's a poor message to send to our community. I was just at a local chili fest in my neighborhood. I love my neighborhood. And I was talking with a young mom who's tried for 3 summers to get her daughter into the Cooking with Kids class because they do such a great job with programming at the library. She's never been able to get in. I think Betsy and her staff would probably have to offer it 4 or 5 times a summer for her daughter to get in. And it's a sad thing that we have these great services at the library that some people can't even attend, and they're working their tails off to provide those services. I went every Tuesday and Thursday this summer to tutor children who fall behind in the summer if they don't get tutoring. There were usually more than 12 people in the vestibule with me before 9 a.m. when the library was opening. All the tutoring rooms were full. Several older gentlemen were always using the internet, and several young families were there already to check out books. So just on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I wasn't there the rest of the week. So I know that if budget cuts affect the hours of the library, it would be a huge detriment to our community.
If you could wrap up, please.
I will. The other thing is the summer library program. Caitlin Schaefer runs it on a shoestring budget. My kids have always volunteered. She runs it through volunteers. She gets all volunteer, like prizes and donations. I think the library staff are very frugal users of taxpayer money. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie Soros?
Hello, my name is Stephanie Soros. I live in the town of Oconomowoc at W379 and 8304 Mill Street. I am here in support of the library. Surprised even that it was even in the budget cuts that we would take money away from something, an institution like the library, something that I grew up in and that my kids grew up in, and I think it's an asset to Oconomowoc. Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas Flanagan?
My name's Tom Flanagan. I live at 2336 Brookstone Lane in Waukesha. I'm not a citizen of this community, but my daughter is a librarian at the Oconomowoc Public Library. I want to honor Mr. Mayor's request and not be duplicative. A lot of the things that I might have said have been already spoken to you. So I'll also say ditto, but I'll also point out an irony that when it always seems that it's music, it's art, it's those types of things that appear to be the most expendable when budget cuts are made. It's the library, but there's an irony to that. That's the most expendable. Yet, right outside this building, we see the pride in a plaque that talks about the Wizard of Oz and its premiere here in Oconomowoc. There is a pride. There is something that's important that comes from things that aren't simply the necessities of mowing grass and patrolling our streets. So I'll leave with that. Thank you.
Thank you. I do not have any further cards. Are there any further cards from staff that people have submitted? With no further cards, this closes the comments, suggestions from the citizens section, and we're going to move on to our consent agenda items. Like to entertain a motion from council.
So moved. Second, Mulder.
Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. On to committee reports, consider act on submitting electric rate change application to the Public Service Commission. Yeah, some water.
Quit smoking.
Good evening. Well, I'm going to wing it then. So anyway,
Mr. Pickard.
Tonight we're going to be asking you to approve a application to the Wisconsin Public Service Commission for our electric rate case. Last rate case was 4 years ago, and we have seen declines in the margin in which we're allowed by the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin to operate in. So we would like the rates evaluated so we can get the margin back to where it needs to be.
Any questions or comments from Mr. Pickard?
Well, Joe,
Alderman Rozak.
yeah, Joe. So one thing we do with the rate increases is we try to keep our reserves healthy and funded, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And right now, we're operating, the last time we did a rate case was 4 years ago, is that correct?
That is correct.
And at that time, right now, we're at a rate of return of about 4.1%, and ideally, we want to be closer to like 5.6%.
5.6 is typically where you'd like to land, yes.
So by allowing you to move forward with the rate case, we're going to let the PSC make the decision of how much we can raise to try to get to that position again, correct?
Yes, they might not, they may choose not to give us 5.6, but they will tell us what they will allow us to.
And even my understanding from the utility committee meeting was despite a rate increase, we're still considerably cheaper because we're doing the WPPI versus other outside entities that are run by shareholders, correct?
Yes, the last report that I received on the rate comparisons between us and investor-owned utilities that surround us, our residential rates were 25% less. Our industrials and commercials are running around 14 to 15% less. So I anticipate moving forward even with a rate increase because they're also the investor owners are also asking for rate increases too because of the economy the way it is. That is quite higher than what we're asking for.
And part of the reason we need the rate increase is also just due to the cost of energy going up, right? So our rate of return goes down because our purchasing power is reduced because of inflation and because of cost of energy, correct?
It's a combination of both supply chain, our supplies we need to keep a viable electric system reliable, to supply power, and then also the other reasons that you stated.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Alderman Kavieski.
No, not at all. We just will operate on a slimmer margin. What we do is we evaluate the income from the sale of electricity, and we base projects within the city to improve. And that's where we add more money in changing wire and changing transformers. And that's what makes our system so reliable, as you probably noticed, that a lot of people don't have power around us, but we have power in Oconomowoc. Yes, the underground primary wires is one of the sole reasons, because trees normally don't interfere with the underground wires. No, absolutely not.
Any further questions? Would like to entertain a motion.
Rozak, so moved.
Altman Close, second.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Next item up is consider act on the conditional use permit for Dent Spa Vehicle Repair and Service located at 500 Chafee Road. Mr. Gallo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We held a public hearing for this application earlier this evening. There was only one person that spoke. That happened to be the applicant. I went through all the comments earlier. There is a draft conditional use permit in your packet. It has 11 conditions stated. I think we've covered everything. This is a modeled after all the other vehicle service repair businesses in the community. You've heard testimony this evening by the applicant that they will meet the standards listed in the ordinance for a vehicle repair business. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and I know the applicant's still here as well.
Any questions from council? Alderman Rozak.
No, but I always make the point during these CUP processes to at least put on the record that I believe that the applicant substantially complied with the CUP requirements and standards within our code and ordinances. He had a good presentation. I appreciated him coming here, and I'm going to vote in favor of this.
Alderman Kavieski.
To that point, it's our obligation if the applicant provides testimony and provides proof that he will comply with those CUP, that we don't deny that CUP. So I will also be supporting that because of that testimony and the process.
I'd like to entertain a motion.
So move, Kavieski.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Next up, consider act on the certified survey map for the Schneiderwent Land Division located at 1490 South Concord Road. Mr. Gallo.
Thank you. Earlier, when did this come in? Monday, October 17th. I did receive notice the applicants were unavailable to attend this meeting, but they asked that you do take action on this item. So they are asking that you still take action even though they're not present. This is a simple land division, taking one parcel, dividing it into two. The size of the site is 3.8 acres, and they're creating basically a 1 acre and a 2 acre site for residential use. There's an existing home on one. It's right on the corner of Concord and Valley. There is a dedication of land that's about 3/4 of an acre along both Valley Road and Concord, because this is never dedicated land. So we are getting the proper right-of-way widths for these two county trunk highways. In addition to that, the Plan Commission Commission discussed thoroughly the potential of a trail along Valley Road. We have several developments that are already dedicating areas for this trail. We're not asking that the trail go in, but they are giving a 15-foot easement along Valley Road for a future trail to be put in. Plan Commission did review this, and they did recommend the certified survey map to the council.
Alderman Kavieski.
The applicant is a resident in District 2. We've engaged with him, and I understand that the family can't be there, but I wanted the council to be aware and the public to be aware that they have been engaged with staff for quite some time and have gone through the process, and I'm in support of approving this.
Like to entertain a motion?
So move, Kavieski.
Second.
Call roll, please.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Without objection, I'd ask Alderman Rozak to take over control of tonight's council meeting. I need to get some medication. If you'd please take over and continue with Mr. Gallo, I'd appreciate it. Without objection, any council members? I should hopefully be back.
Give me 1 second, please.
Yeah, you bet.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
Wow, well, he kept the chair warm for me at least. Jason, we'll go on to the next item, which is item 9B.
See.
Oh, I'm sorry, 9C. And this is the consider act on the condominium plat for Village Crossing 2, Addendum 3, located at southeast corner of Valley Road and Gold Medal Drive. Just give us a brief presentation, if you would.
Thank you, I will. We did receive a condominium plat for review. This did go through the Plan Commission, and it's before you tonight. This is a condominium plat to finalize the development of Village Crossing 2. This has been kind of an ongoing process. I laid out the history, but in sum, it's a total of 52 residential units consisting of 26 buildings. They're all duplexes. We've approved everything except this final phase that's before you tonight. It consists of 10 buildings with 20 total units. This does conform to the general development plan. This is part of a planned development in the Paps Farms area, and we did approve the planned development. As long as this met the general development plan, it should be approved. It does meet the number of units, and the general layout does conform. Plan Commission did review this, and they recommend in favor of the condominium plat for Village Crossing 2, Addendum number 3.
Okay, any questions from the floor on this item? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Ellis.
Second, Kavieski.
Roll call.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
The next item is item 9D, consider act on extraterritorial certified survey map for Grant Land Division located at N6731 Morgan Road, Town of Concord. Jason, also a brief presentation on that one.
Yes, certainly. We did receive a application with a certified survey map to divide land actually in the town of Concord. This falls within the city's extraterritorial platting jurisdictional area, which is 3 miles from the city boundaries. This property in question tonight at approximately north 6731 Morgan Road is directly across the street from city land, so it's definitely within the 3 mile boundary. The property owner is Steve Grant. He owns 99 acres of land, and he's dividing into to create just 2 additional buildable lots. And the rest of it will be deed restricted as non-developable. It'll be stuck in the A1 zoning. I included a copy of that zoning limitations document that gets recorded on the parcel as part of this. So he's worked very hard with both Jefferson County as well as the town of Concord. They've all reviewed this and they've approved this land division. It does have a couple of odd shapes, but overall, this is what they've agreed to preserve the most farmland and create low-density growth in their communities. They did perk these out. This is not going to be served by municipal city sewer and water. They did show the septic test. It's a conventional at-grade system. Works for it. The Plan Commission did review this, and they recommended in favor of the certified survey map.
Yep, Alderman Mulder.
So I see that they're not looking to have it annexed. When those lots are sold to individuals, could those individuals come and request to be annexed at that point? So we don't know that they wouldn't be potentially? So when we,
Right,
how does that work?
I talked to the owner about annexation because it's contiguous to city land. He says he wants to build a house on one property and possibly have his daughter is looking at the other lot, but he's not certain on that yet. Could they annex? Yeah, they could. They could file a petition and annex. There's been some change in legislation that makes it a little bit easier to cross the county line, even though we have no land currently in Jefferson County.
Thanks.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion. Oh, go ahead.
If it was annexed, there's no issue with how it's being requested.
No, I think it's, these lots are generally the same size as what's across the street existing on Morgan Road. The use is certainly fine, residential use. I really have no concerns with how this is laid out.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Do a roll call, please.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
And item 9E is next. Consider act on ordinance 22-01038, creating section 17.116 of the wetland regulation and amending section 17.904, definitions of the City of Oconomowoc zoning code list. This is, as we try to note, the first reading, so if we like what we do tonight, we can always waive that second reading. Jason, you're presenting on this, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple months ago, we brought forth an ordinance to the Common Council, and it was to create a 10-foot wetland setback. This is somewhat consistent with other communities that I've worked in. This means no development can occur within 10 feet of a documented wetland that's generally over, over a quarter acre in size or greater. There was some concerns with the council at that time. We went back and we had it reviewed by several people, including the attorney representative on the council. I appreciate your time that you spent on this.
I just reviewed it as an alderman, not as an attorney.
Okay. Well, and we included in your packet the changes. I've underlined, blacklined, colored coded what the proposed changes were, and then I included a clean version. There are some things that we would allow in the 10-foot setback wetlands, those permitted uses section under B. There's quite a list of things. But this is mostly, this is listed in the strategic plan of the city to examine potential creating a building and development setback for wetlands. This is to minimize potential negative impacts on wetlands and water quality. And I think it's a good document. The Plan Commission did review it. They had some comments as well. Those have been incorporated, as well as the comments from the alderman. I'm recommending that we take action on this this evening.
Yeah, Alderman Mulder.
Yeah, I have a couple concerns about it. Thinking about all that we learned from the tall pines and some of the actions we do there in stream reclamation, and then, we're allowing mowing in this area. We're allowing tree and shrubbery planting. We're we're allowing tree cutting and shrubbery clearing. It had been just invasive species, had been one thing we'd proposed. I guess it feels like right now, people are just gonna put their lawn right up to the edge of and that doesn't feel like what we're trying to do. And it feels like we're trying to provide a buffer, but what we've really done is just eliminate some permanent things like sports courts, but everything else has largely been allowed. So I don't know, it doesn't feel like we took a very hard stand here.
It's mostly man-made structures is what we're trying to avoid.
Which is, I don't really feel like that's, sorry to interrupt you, just that doesn't feel like in the spirit of preserving wetlands is just don't put a garage there, but anything else is good, mow right up to the creek. I mean, that isn't, I don't know.
Historically, DNR has allowed wetland cutting. They do allow that. They allow wetland, and this isn't the wetland. This is the 10-foot buffer.
Got it.
Beyond. This is upland good area. So, you know, it's a balancing act of how restrictive do you want to be. We don't allow certain stuff in a wetland itself, but this isn't the wetland. This is the 10-foot upland area.
Right. Which is.
Alderman, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
Finish,
no,
Matt.
go ahead.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
And did we determine if this 10 feet is consistent with other municipalities?
Yeah, I could go on record. I
Okay.
came from the village of Germantown for 7 years. We had a 10-foot
Okay.
wetland setback. And we did research of other communities, and it's not a consistent number. Some communities were much more restrictive than 10 feet, and I think 10 feet is about the least amount that we found.
Any other comments? If the council will indulge me, the few changes I made were really consistent with the state statutes, and those are highlighted in there. And to give people an opportunity to repair something like a walkway if they did have something down there previously. So, any other questions? Anybody want to make a motion on this one?
So moved and waiving the second reading?
Second.
Do a roll call on this one as well, I believe.
Yep. Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the next item, 10, unfinished or old business. I think Duffy, this is you. This is consider act on pre-development reimbursement agreement between the City of Oconomowoc and Newman Developments, Inc., also known as Olympia Hills Development Project. Bob, if you want to give us a little bit of background.
Basically, what the title of it is, right? The city is asking Newman Development to reimburse the city for professional fees incurred by the city required for development planning and feasibility analysis for the Olympia Hills proposed development.
Any questions from the council on this one? We did have a discussion in the committee of the whole prior to this meeting, as well as a closed session discussing some of these issues. And I think, unless there's any other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
So move, Kavieski.
Second.
Please do a roll call on this one as well.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Since I took over, the pace is picking up considerably.
That's because you're speaking as the
Coming.
mayor,
What
it's
is
a duplicate sound.
Yeah, there it is.
Hey, I'm quieter
We're
too
missing
up
about
here. I'm
20
not
minutes
talking as
over
much.
here. That's
Yeah.
the problem.
I think it's looking better over there, don't you?
We're on to new business. This is item 11A. This is considered an act and resolution 22R3066, directing Plan Commission to review amendments to the city official map. Jason, you're back.
I am.
Welcome back.
I put together a resolution that I'm asking that you act on this evening. It's regarding amending the city's official map. Some of you may not know we have an official map. It was adopted in 1995, and I included a copy of it in your packets. I have a full-size version of this if you're interested, but the state statutes ask that communities adopt an official map. They kind of lay out what they would like on the map, and it really, the main thing is street right-of-ways should be on the official maps. So I looked at our official map, and it's in black and white. And the line weight is very challenging for me to even determine if it's a 80-foot right-of-way or or 100-foot right-of-way. So it's, I think, and the map itself being over 20 years old, it's outdated. It has things on there shown as proposed roadways, such as the bypass or the Thackeray Trail extension. So it's time that the city takes their official map and brings it up to date. One of the past summer intern projects was updating the official map, and she put together a real nice color, in color now, we've entered the 20th century, 21st century, with colors to code the right-of-ways. So now when people come in with a certified survey map and we ask for dedication, they can look at this map and determine what the county highways are looking for. Now tonight, we're not actually adopting the official map. What you're doing by state statute, it says the communities, cities can amend their map, that the council should direct this to the Plan Commission for review. And I would like you to direct me to send this to the Plan Commission for their review in November, and then we would bring it back to you with their recommendation for final approval.
Any questions?
One question.
Oh, we'll start Alderman Mulder.
Ladies first. Take advantage of
Oh,
that.
wow, okay. Yeah,
Hey,
there you go.
I'll take advantage of that. So 27 years is a long time. When would you recommend that we update this next? Short of 27 years.
A year after his retirement.
No, the year before.
I would say if there's any substantial changes that occur, or if the county or the council, wants a policy decision, a certain roadway to be extended, then you should go and on your official map make a change. And, there is no set 5 years, 10 years. It's really when major changes are occurring or you'd like to see a road, changed.
Alderman Mulder.
This is really, really picky, but the, the proposed extensions in pink are really difficult to tell from the regular roads in
red.
reddish purple, so maybe they could be in just a different color.
We can make that change.
Very small.
And isn't the city, the city yellow outline too is really hard to read, at least on the version I got, that actually shows the city itself.
So
at least the one I got. Do you see what I'm seeing, Matt? The actual yellow outline for
Yellow,
the city
yeah,
itself, the actual
Yep.
city limits within the square.
Right.
We just might have got a bad copy.
Yeah, so this,
No, it's,
Oh, that's better.
was it clear?
Yeah.
Maybe.
It was just that we got a bad copy.
is that? 11 by 17. So there, the pink is much better too.
Yeah, it's still kind of close to the red.
Well, he can,
Alderman
he can
Kavieski?
review.
I expect that you will find support from council in moving this to Plan Commission. When it comes back to the council for final approval, would there be an opportunity at that point to have something associated with it that would trigger automatic updates if major roadways were changed or something of that nature?
We could put that in the resolution that when you approve it, we could have a paragraph in there that says amendments to this, and we could lay out, I could get some wording on that.
I think that might be something to consider, especially with the identification of some of the roadway completions identified in there. If those occur, then that might be a trigger that it would just get updated. Otherwise, we'll be back 27 years from now going, hey.
Any other comments, questions? I'll entertain a motion on this one.
So move, Kavieski.
Second.
Jennifer.
Okay, yeah, ladies first again. Yeah.
I defer.
Please do roll call on this one as well.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Altman-Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Item 11B, consider act on resolution 22R3067, awarding Phase 1 design construction contract for the Oconomowoc Rotary Splash Pad at Roosevelt Park. Craig, are you? Oh, there you are. I'm reading it, and then you guys just
I've
appear. It's
appeared.
wonderful.
We want to keep the pace moving, like you said.
We're moving along now.
So back in February, we discussed the Oconomowoc Rotary Splash Pad project, and the committee of the whole at that time had a consensus that as long as the funds for the project were fundraised, the city would approve it and then fund the maintenance cost. So as the committee worked on this, in September, we advertised RFPs for design and construction. We received 2 proposals from commercial recreation specialists out of Verona and Team Real out of Northern Illinois. The ad hoc committees and myself and a rep from our Parks and Rec board reviewed and actually interviewed both firms, which I didn't put in the memo, but it was unanimous that we chose commercial recreation specialists for 2 reasons. One is price, which is important, but also their substantial experience in designing and constructing splash pads in Wisconsin and the upper Midwest. They've done basically all of the really good ones around, including West Bend, Jackson, Sussex, and Heartland, and many others. The cost of the design phase, so we're modeling this after the skate park project, very similar. That was a design and construction specialization. So we have 2 phases. Design is the first phase, and that's $19,000. The remainder of it would be part of the construction phase. The Oconomowoc Rotary Foundation is going to fund the $19,000 for the design phase. They actually already have $70,000 towards the project of their commitment of $100,000. And similar to the skate park project, we will not move forward with phase 2 until we have the funds. So that might be in a couple months, it might be in a year, but it's going to happen at some point. So this is a very important phase, though, because as design, right now, we've kind of thrown out, here's what a splash pad could look like, but it's not ours. So people want to see what Oconomowoc's going to look like, and this will help with the fundraising efforts as well. So the splash pad committee recommended this. The Park and Rec Board did approve it last night, and tonight we're asking for your approval as well. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments? Alderman Kavieski.
I appreciate the process that this is going through. This project, like another item coming up, like the Veterans Park, like the boardwalk, like the skate park, we have a lot of great things in our community, not as a result of the city paying for it out of the levy, but as a result of public-private partnerships. Those things and those people who come together to make that happen make this community a very special place. And identifying the location, identifying the process, and getting the community to support that is kind of exciting to see every time a project like that comes up. So I know it takes a lot of your time and a lot of community members' time to do that. So I appreciate that.
Alderman Altman-Cloth.
I guess it's really not a question because I know the answer because I'm on the Park and Rec Board. But the company that you're recommending, I was very impressed with what Lauren had to say last night at the Park and Rec Board. She had mentioned that the company that we want to go with is a Wisconsin company. The other one was from Illinois. And then the other thing that she was really impressed by is before they even came to meet with her or the committee, they actually went and toured Roosevelt and looked at the area, looked at Imagination Station, and the other company, from my understanding, did not do that, so.
Great. Alderman Mulder.
We're thinking Roosevelt, still in that same location you had before where the current.
Correct. It would be the Circle Trailhead area just northwest of Imagination Station.
Okay. So the planning they'll be doing is assuming that's the footprint, is that correct?
Correct, based on that site.
Alderman Kavieski.
One final thing to note, it is the Oconomowoc Rotary splash pad because the Oconomowoc Rotary has committed the $100,000 in spearheading the project. The overall project is estimated around $300,000. So there's still a lift from the community to achieve the $200,000 after that portion has been fundraised for. And I think it's just notable that once the Oconomowoc Rotary hits that number, it's not like the project is good to go. There will be additional efforts and events and fundraising required, so.
Good point. Rotary is the lead sponsor, but they're not going to stop at 100,000 and then go back to their basements and hang out till the rest. They're going to assist with this as well. So they're getting close to their commitment, but yes. And this is a fun part of my job. So we love working with the community and there's so many generous people, so we appreciate that. But yes, we do need, it's not like tomorrow this happens. We still need to raise some funds.
Any other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Kavieski.
Second, Altman-Cloth.
Call roll.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Okay, the next item is 14C, consider act on resolution 22R3068, authorizing private fundraising to establish a K-9 program for the City of Oconomowoc Police Department. Chief Pfister.
All right. Pleasure to be here tonight. This is a great initiative that we're trying to kick off here tonight with this resolution is to add a K-9 to the police department. K-9s have great, are visible deterrents, detect and locate criminals, help with missing persons, and, you know, obviously, along with illegal drugs in our community. I think this is a great time for us to be kicking this off. As most of you know, the Sheriff's Department has made significant cuts because of their budget issues. With that, the K-9s are not even available for searches that we need in our community. So this is a great addition here. So the resolution, we're looking to raise private funding between $65,000 and $75,000. And this is kind of our kickoff announcement, and we'll be working with the Waukesha County Community Foundation on this. They've agreed to assist us with collecting the funds and help us process those. So I think it's a great initiative, and we're really excited to push this off. I can tell you, even before today, we have already been raised about $25,000.
Awesome.
So.
Great news. Any questions, comments? Alderman Douglas.
Chief, you said it was going to be narcotics and tracking. Is it also going to be apprehension or no? Are you not doing
Additional what?
Are you doing apprehension as well or no?
Yes, we are. Yep.
Alderman Douglas, can you tell us what is apprehension where the dog like actually like tackles someone and gets
Yeah,
them?
the dog
Okay.
will bite.
Yeah, that's
If-
all police talk for us here.
Actually,
Yeah, help
if-
us out here. Okay. Alderman Kavieski, you were next, and then Shell Pepper.
So last year, there was a community effort to support the body cams, which resulted in body cams for the police department and for our vehicles. The Oconomowoc Supports the Blue community group helped that effort. I think it's just notable that that group, that community group, has transformed into really supporting the first responders of our community. And so it's now called Oconomowoc Supports Our First Responders, and they're engaging with the Oconomowoc Police Department and the Waukesha Community Foundation and putting together events. And I believe there is one coming up in November. There'll be one in first quarter. And then this is the example of how public-private partnerships come together to materialize the good things in our community. I appreciate you bringing it forward. I appreciate the approach that you brought it forward through. I think that was thoughtful. I think you'll find a lot of community support in this.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Thanks, Chief. Always appreciate your interest in evolving the police department and involving the community in those in that evolution. I'm interested in knowing who identified this as a need for the city.
I did.
Was this ever on a strategic goal, anything that we had ever identified in a workshop? You know, we put a lot of time into identifying strategic goals as a city and what different departments want to accomplish. And honestly, this is, I think the first time I heard about it was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was not on a strategic goal at that time. This is something when I became chief that I wanted to progress our department on. So it's been a goal of mine. And I really wasn't ready to put that in a strategic plan when we did that. And I knew that the way we wanted to do this was private funding and working with our community. And it's part of the community policing that we do here, of being a partner with the community, getting out there and, you know, doing these types of events to go forward.
What specific gap do you see this filling?
Oh, this is huge. I mean, just let alone, I mean, the drugs and drug searches of those kind, I can tell you there's hundreds of times that our officers stop cars, and we need a canine, and there's just not one around.
Well,
And
we're
I can tell you that drugs are driving through our community, and we're stopping those vehicles, and they're driving away with it.
Are we talking
So-
fentanyl? Are we talking opiates? Are
We're
we
talking fentanyl, we're talking all sorts of drugs.
So the dog
Correct.
will be trained to detect fentanyl and opiates and,
Correct.
and those types of drugs? Okay,
Absolutely.
Because I think that's my biggest thing is there is clearly a crisis that needs to be solved on that end. And my concern is that we're going to be finding this dog busting 15-year-olds for pot. That's what we're going to be putting most of the time into it for. And I don't know if that's where the city's resources should be going towards. I think if it's for fentanyl, if it's for cocaine, if we're dealing with those types of things, great. But I'm worried that the gap that we're trying to fill here is specifically like for the high school or you know, for younger kids, I guess, with marijuana specifically.
Not at all, okay? Drugs are just one aspect of this, okay? I can tell you that we get plenty of missing people that have Alzheimer's, dementia, other things of that nature, where we're reaching out to the fire department, you know, they're bringing out all of their equipment and, you know, 25, you know, firefighters searching areas for these missing people that are critically missing. A canine, we don't need to spend all those resources. You know, it's able to track and go forward. Speaking to the drug part, no, I mean, we're not out there to try and, you know, we're tackling, you know, the teenage group of marijuana and that, okay? But I will tell you, it's a gateway drug to the others, okay, to fentanyl and everything else, all right? So a lot of times they have marijuana, guess what? They have opioids.
Yeah.
They got
Well,
fentanyl and
I think
everything
that's
else.
debatable, you know, whether it's a gateway drug. I think, you know, there's differing opinions on that, and I respect the opinion that you're bringing to it. But I also know that I think 70%, 60% of the likely voters, registered voters in Wisconsin, however we want to say it, support marijuana legalization. And so I think there's a lot of people in this state that wouldn't want to be seeing extra and additional resources being put into the city specifically to bust 15-year-olds for pot. Anyways, go
I
ahead.
just, can I respond to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you're isolating one part of this, okay? It is not about us busting high school kids for pot, okay? And ultimately, it is illegal in this state currently.
Right,
And when that
absolutely,
changes,
right.
we will not enforce it, obviously,
Right.
because it's there. But this is not about doing the, you know, and just to get high school kids, okay? That's not our plan.
Okay. No, I agree, it is illegal, and if you come, you have to hold people accountable and hold them to the law. There's no doubt about that. But there's also a priority that this town council takes in terms of what we're directing you to do and the resources that we're gonna allocate from the citizens of this city to support this program. You're saying it's gonna be 100% funded, privately funded.
Correct.
That's great. I mean, in some ways, I guess I do have, you know, there are some kind of issues there. It's not the same as the body cams. The body cams are really a community service-minded resource and tool that the whole community, you know, you can fundraise for that. Privately fundraising for the dog is different. I mean, the dog can be used in an aggressive way that Alderman Douglas just brought forward.
Absolutely.
So it has a different impact on the community than the body cams do.
I think
And
it keeps
so-
our community safer.
Yeah, right. I think that's
And
the
that's,
hope
and that's
is,
the initiative and what I've been told
but
in the
so
strategic
what-
planning.
What issues have we experienced in the last 5 years that specifically the dog could have repaired that issue?
We've had numerous officers fighting with subjects that we can't get under control, okay, that have had to go in. They've gotten injured, hurt. I got one that's been injured for a long time
Yeah.
because they had to fight with a subject. Okay, well, if I can send a dog in and keep an officer from getting hurt, I'll do it every time.
Right. Well, and so, and I think that leads to another great point is what are the procedures that are going to be implemented around the use of this dog?
Correct. And I will decide those through the policy of the police department and procedures that are there. And I can guarantee you, we have looked at about 20 other communities that have canines and gotten their policies and procedures and how to proceed with that.
Okay, well, and that's another one that I think the city government needs to be involved in as well. That we should be presented with those procedures. We don't necessarily have to have the input. We definitely need to see them though. because I still haven't seen anything about the body cams. I mean, what the procedures are around the use there. And so it's all about transparency, involving the community, and making sure we're all on the same team and a part of how it's going to be used and leveraged.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's okay, let's,
I have to disagree with that. I don't think that's our job.
Yeah,
I think
let's
that's
just-
his job. I think at the end of the day, he's going to be the one that's going to keep us safe. He's going to be the one that's, at the end of the day, is going to allow us to do what we do on a daily basis.
I think it was my turn to talk next.
And I think it's her turn to talk next.
Hey, where's the gavel? He left and took the gavel with him.
I kind of like it sitting over here. I can't talk very well, but this is kind of cool.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
I kind of almost lost my train of thought. So when Shell Pepper was first asking you about whether it was in the strategic, you had a strategic plan for it or not, we know that recently there's been a lot of budget cuts with Waukesha County sheriffs and how that's impacted our department. I'm trying to find my question in this for you. But you had mentioned in your opening statement that one of the needs for a K-9 is that we no longer have a K-9 available to us through the county, correct?
Correct.
And that's a more recent thing?
Correct. We actually go through the high school periodically, and the school district wants us there. We approached the sheriff's department on that, who normally assists us, and they declined.
Yeah.
So now we have had to go on out to Jefferson County to get K-9s.
Okay, so this is a need for our city and our community. And as a mom of a 15-year-old, if that kid has pot on him, I hope the dog catches him.
Alderman Ellis.
Actually, she said everything I was going to say, so.
Pass.
Team
Alderman
District
Kavieski
4.
and then Alderman Mulder.
We go.
We had conversation about K-9 unit prior in the discussions associated with the body cams. I think the issue with Waukesha County not having a K-9 as readily available and kind of pushes that up from a priority standpoint, at least for me strategically, not just here in the city of Oconomowoc, but in the surrounding communities that we provide mutual aid to, that we go to them, they come to us. That is a huge thing. And as a father of 4, 2 of which are at OHS, being a member of the board of SOFA, I will tell you that while I was my kid's age, may have been something to experiment with and walk away from, but with fentanyl nowadays, and that being laced and everything from that to online prescription drugs, there is no safe and gateway, non-gateway. It's all, in my opinion, deadly, because the introduction of fentanyl into those applications, you're playing Russian roulette. You will die with one hit. And from a public safety standpoint, I don't think we should be lessening that being marijuana in a public format. I struggle with my kids telling them not to do that because they hear from others that it's not that bad, that it should be legalized. That's not even a discussion in a public format for me. It is illegal, they shouldn't do it, and it is deadly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I got Alderman Mulder next on my list.
So is I remember making the comment during the budget when we were talking about this, that I think ongoing support after 2023 should be a budgeted item. Is that the plan, or do we have ongoing donations for this, Lou?
we do.
Actually, today, we got an offer to fund it ongoing for the maintenance and training
5 years.
for the next 5 years.
I don't have a really crystal clear answer for why I feel like that should be something that's budgeted and not donated. I think the donation of items, kind of to your point, feels right. When we're talking about, and I guess this is actually kind of goes back to the library, that this is an operational cost, this is what the city does, is it funds our operations. I'm not going to turn down a generous donation, I guess, but I don't think it's good policy to have our operational costs donated to us. I think special things donated, whether it's body cameras or parts of the collection of the library or a splash pad, are all great. But I think when we do these things, we should not do it with the expectation that someone's going to pick up our bill to do continued. So I guess that's kind of where I'm landing on that. Is he's an officer, right? And we provide for our officers. We don't have to adopt a cop in this town, so.
Alderman Douglas.
Generosity. It was offered.
Alderman Douglas?
So Chief, I'm in 100% of this, in favor. The idea of bringing one out here is fantastic, 'cause it's not available in the county very often. My prior place of employment had 4 dogs. It was very common for them to have a golf outing every year with items donated to have ongoing costs for that dog. So it's not, I guess, out of the norm for departments to have that ongoing cost paid for through fundraising with continued maintenance. Whether that's, I mean, I think Century and Delafield also does a donation to them every year. I think part of it is having one readily available, you know, for a missing child. The quicker you can get on that track, the better. You know, you have the bank robbery we had. If we had a dog here, readily available, we potentially could have caught that suspect long before he got outside the perimeter, and then we're chasing him down days later, or coming back to the city. So, I mean, anything I can do to help, by all means ask.
Your support is great. So, and we did, like I said, reached out to 10 different communities that have canines, and they do all do fundraising throughout a year to pay the ongoing costs.
Any other comments or questions? Oh, Mr. Ellis.
So I understand that the 75 is going to be donated from other individuals, which is going to take care of the cost associated with this canine. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You know, what I guess makes me a little, I don't know, makes me laugh a little bit is we talk about budget. We can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do the other thing. And then we go ahead and we have individuals that come alongside and say, we'll go ahead and foot this. And then we have a 40-minute dissertation on why we should pay for it. It makes no sense to me. I'm 100% for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Hey, I'll just say, I think canines are a great deterrent. I'm glad that we're looking into it. And they also make great community outreach when you take them to the events. The kids love them. I still like the dogs when I go to the airports and they're sniffing around. You know, I think it's great. So I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Kavieski.
Second, Altman.
Please do a roll call.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
All that for that shit.
Okay, the last item on new business, 14D. Consider act on Lake Country Triathlon Special Event request by the Silver Circle Sports Event LLC. Craig, you got this one.
Yep, I'll give a brief intro, and then Sean Osborne has patiently waited until 9:30 tonight to be with us, so I'll let Sean talk on behalf of this event. But Sean with Silver Circle Sports Events LLC is entering, I believe, his 7th year operating the Lake Country Triathlon, and they use City Park Beach as the swimming hub, along with other pieces of this. The reason why it becomes before council is because the ordinance Muni Code 21.115 says you need to give permission for use of the lake for events. So we are bringing this forward, and I think there was a packet of information in your packet from the municipal overview that Sean and Alan put together from their past races. Tonight, they're asking for a 5-year approval for this. I do want to talk about finances briefly. They pay the city for 2 things. One, for revenue lost for the boat launch, the beach, and watercraft for that period of time that it's closed or inaccessible. They also pay for police assistance, CSOs, and regular officers. So Sean certainly can address that. I think the reason we're asking, and Sean's asking for a 5-year approval, is because they do a lot of planning. He ties us to a lot of national events and different things, and the event timeline needs to happen. So with further ado, Sean Osborne is here. Sean, come on up.
Good evening. Thank you for having me, Sean Osborne. We're based back in Oconomowoc again at 1327 Wall Street. Not the Wall Street I thought I'd be on after I graduated college, but I can look like this now. Oh, the question at the top of your head is, why does Sean have long hair and look like an idiot? It's a fundraiser. So last time we raised $10,000 for early childhood cancer research, so that's why. I provided you a 17-page document that outlines just about everything you could ever want to know about the Lake Country Tri, so I'm not going to talk about that. What I'm going to talk about is what you have not received yet, and that's the survey that we did, and I provided this to Craig yesterday, and I'll provide it to all you folks. If you want to know what people think about Oconomowoc, read this document. It's unbelievable what people say. They love the event. They bring tons of people. We had 1,000 spectators on top of 500 athletes. We asked them what they would say to Oconomowoc residents if they had a chance to meet them. There's a page-and-a-half comments, not one negative comment. They say things like, residents are awesome, the support was awesome, the downtown businesses were great. Sean Osborne puts on an awesome, no, I didn't say that. And then finally, we asked them, did you visit any businesses? Where'd you stay? What'd you do? I have 2.5 pages of comments of businesses that they visited and places they spent money. Happy to answer any questions.
First, Sean, I think your hair looks great.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
You know, it looks awesome. So don't worry about
there.
that.
I won't be participating in that.
Any comments, questions? Alderman Altman-Cloth?
I just have a statement that I'm just going to make, that I will not be able to vote for this because, well, you signed my paychecks. So, and I think I've mentioned before that I'm in charge of the swim portion of this, so a lot of those comments on that page are probably about how well that swim is ran and all the lifeguards.
Funny, there's
and-
not one.
Oh, really?
I should also mention that the mayor was there. We let him have the microphone for about 30 seconds, made some great comments, and he started the race. Mayor, we got to talk about your start button.
Alderman Mulder?
Lewis first.
Oh, Alderman Kavieski?
I'm in support of that. I understand the reason that you're looking for a 5-year is because it does take a lot of planning and there's a lot of resources associated with that. You do a lot more than just that event in the community. You and I worked together in 2020 to put together a platform for Easter services when there wasn't an ability to do that in the churches. You have your hair is a visual of how much you care about giving back to a lot of causes. It's neat to see those types of businesses in our community that truly do embrace the city and what we do. And we always respond. Oconomowoc Responds is a good way to go about that. So appreciate you and your dedication.
Thank you.
Alderman Mulder?
I was happy to see you were going to do a sprint because I will pretend to be doing that for a while and then stop pretending.
I'll hire extra guards.
But anyway, there was a mention in there about potentially using Veterans Park as a pullout, but I didn't see how that was addressed anywhere. Is that just a concept? I don't know. I wanted to bring that up because I wasn't sure how the council or the community would feel about using that park as part of the race.
I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't write this document because this document's professionally written, so Alan wrote it, who has a PhD. So we did ask if we could potentially use Veterans Park. I'm a veteran, so it would be awesome if we could use Veterans Park. My foundation supports firefighters, cops, and veterans. And if there was a way that I could raise money to help vets out through this event by using Veterans Park, that would be awesome. But we're not asking for that, and I'm not looking to bring that up in public. We'll talk to the people involved there. We'll work through Craig, and only if we have full support from the community would we ever do anything there.
Okay, thanks. I just wasn't clear if you were asking for that or not. But thanks for that transparency.
Alderman Ellis first.
Question, have you had any issues during, for these triathlons, people, almost drowning or getting hit by a car or anything along those lines?
We've never had we've had one injury.
Okay.
We had one injury where a guy crashed and didn't know he crashed because he had a concussion, and we sent him to the hospital. No water issues at all. Jennifer does a great job. She runs all of our guards. We hire guards from the city, from the Y, and we also hire the Oconomowoc, strike that,
Western
Western
Lakes, yeah.
Lakes dive team. And we have a police boat out there, and sometimes we have a sheriff's boat out there, and we have people on paddle boards out there.
Lifeguards on paddle.
And lifeguards, yeah.
I would like to say, I've kind of read this, and it says, you know, very cute city. Town, well, it's a city, but the town is beautiful. I like those comments, and I
The
really
one that I'm so impressed with is there's a gentleman from Madison who's 44 years old, has lived in Wisconsin his entire life, and he says, I've been driving by Oconomowoc for 44 years. I've never been there. I went there this year. I'll definitely be back to vacation with my family. I mean, just think of the number of people that have driven past Oconomowoc. They don't know what an awesome city this is. So yeah, I was dumbfounded when I saw the generous comments.
Well, this is going to be unique. Mayor?
It is kind of cool. I can't talk very well, but I wanted to, I saw that clap. I just wanted to tell you the triathlon was an exceptional event. Thank you for the invitation. And council members, if you haven't had a chance to experience it or watch it, really run well, very professional. Hats off to you.
Thank you.
I've got Alderman Kavieski first, and then Alderman Douglas.
Just one, even though this is a 5-year, if something were to go wrong, if something weren't to be met, you can lose that prior to the 5-year term. So I just don't want the community to think that we're out, you know, handing out these long-term agreements and not holding accountable. You have a long track record of being slightly above average. So there's a level of comfort there, but there is accountability to that. And I know we talked about that, and you don't take that for granted. So I appreciate that.
Correct. I sort of look at this sort of like a CUP, right? Where we're good to go and we keep moving forward unless we do something wrong. Then you're going to haul me back in here and say, no go, we're going to pull your permit. Yeah, absolutely.
Alderman Douglas?
My question is actually for the chief.
Oh, on this event?
Yeah.
Sure. Chief? Thanks, Sean.
Sorry, I can't. You were a sergeant when we started this.
I know. Thanks. Mayor, either.
Fair enough.
So we looked at different security things for downtown, reference the German Christmas market, parades and everything like that. Do you feel comfortable with the road closures or jersey barriers or anything that needs to change for this run for security purposes?
Yeah, we always look at that with Sean. I can tell you that working with him and his company is the easiest event we have. He comes prepared. He knows, you know, where roads need to be shut down, where we need extra people, where we need barricades, where we need all of this. He's a professional in this, okay? And like I said, we enjoy working with him on this. And, you know, with various things that happen in other communities, we always look at that and, you know, we may have to increase some things, but it's always reviewed.
Perfect. Any other questions or comments? Oh, Alderman Ellis.
I think you've done an excellent job. I've actually watched it a couple of times, and I almost decided to do it once and chickened out.
We'd love to have you.
Chickened out at the last moment. However, my only concern is going forward that we need to put some sort of a stipulation. I don't know if it's done by us or it just comes back every year. That if something does happen in a major catastrophe where there's a plethora of drownings or cars, whatever the case may be, that we have the ability to pull that permit. I just think that's kind of important.
Alderman, I believe that you do. I believe that our permit, Craig, allows the municipality to pull a permit at any time without cause.
Two quick points. Great question, Kevin. So Sean goes through the special event permit annually, like everybody else does. So if something goes wrong, we can pull that for the future. The other thing I know could be a question, it's a 5-year agreement. Our prices will probably increase, as will the police's for assistance. So that's part of the annual charge. So if Sean paid X last year and the prices go up, he would pay the next fee. So it's not locked in at a 5-year. But yes, it's an annual permit, so he has to go through that process every year. This is just giving him that leeway for a 5-year planning process.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Ellis.
Second, Kavieski.
Okay, we'll do roll call.
What? I'm sorry, 1 second, it's not letting me. There we go, okay. Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Abstain.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Okay, we already did item 12, so we're on to staff reports. No staff reports. Item 14, reports and comments from the alderman. Any comments or questions, issues? Alderman Kavieski.
I'll make it brief, but I appreciate everybody who came out to provide their input and their comments regarding the library. If anybody wants to meet with me independently to have a conversation about that, my number is 414-875-7625. You can also get a hold of me via email on my city email. I'll make time to get with you individually. I think that's probably more productive than an email exchange. But I appreciate the time that you took and that you stayed. And if anybody is listening to this on YouTube or wherever, they get a hold of me. One of the things that I find very sacred in these positions as an elected is that we make ourselves available to listen in person as well and to have an actual exchange as opposed to a one-way. I get the format that we're locked into here, but it's sincere and I'll do my best to work around your schedule.
Any other comments? Alderman Spiegelberg.
I'd like to thank everybody that came out too and expressed their concern and interest with the library. But I don't want to disparage anyone who left early because we didn't have a vote on this tonight, so.
Any other? Alderman Ellis.
I don't want to make this a kind of a thing here, but I too, I really appreciate it because there was some really good points. And it's going to make me go ahead and think a little bit and really consider going forward what that final vote looks like with me. So I really do appreciate all those that came out, those that left, because there was going to be no action taken tonight. Thank you, because you made me really think. Thank you.
No comments from me. Mayor, any comments from the mayor?
Just
Further?
thank you, Alderman Rozak, for taking over.
You betcha. And no comments from the acting mayor, so. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, I'll
Second.
entertain a motion to
Second.
adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There, guys.